Welcome to this lecture. In the next few minutes, you'll learn the main font types and how you can categorize them. This video is aimed at teaching you what you need to know for your everyday projects. Thus, I've skipped all the boring stuff about how each font type emerged, how they were developed over time and all that jazz. While it may be interesting to a handful of users, I prefer to stay down to earth and have a hands-on approach. The main classification you should know about divides typefaces based on their look. We have two fundamental categories, serif and sans serif fonts. We have two examples on screen. The first line is written in Droid serif, while the second one uses Droid sans. The difference between these two lies in these tiny decorations. Let's focus on the T characters. You'll notice the serif version has these extra bits that make it a bit more distinctive. This is the entire story across all characters. In general, you can associate serif fonts with a more elegant look. They're very common in the print industry, especially in newspaper format, but also in professional documents and other mediums that require a greater note of seriousness and/or elegance. Some argue serif fonts are easier to identify by a reader, and thus it's recommended you use them if your text is fairly small. I don't wholeheartedly agree, but note each medium has its own set of rules. It's one thing to look at type through a 27-inch display, and another to read it on an A5 piece of paper in a book. If you want to easily remember the difference between serif and sans serif fonts, I recommend you keep in mind the definition of sans, which means without. Thus, sans serif can be remembered as without decoration. As for identifying this typeface on the canvas, I have no particular advice other than look at them and see if it features extra decorations. Besides these two main classes, here are some other ones you're bound to encounter. First, we have the handwritten fonts, which are pretty easy to understand. They try to seem like they were written by a person. You'll also find script fonts, which are sometimes referred to as calligraphy fonts. These are extremely elegant and they're best used in large sizes. Decorative fonts are another classification, and these have an excess of personality. They're very easy to notice because they usually shout for attention. Photoshop uses these classes I just mentioned, and you can find them in the character panel by clicking here. Thus, you can look for a specific type of font, so you'll cut down all the other ones that don't fit that class. Please note that as you browse around various typeface galleries, you're likely to find other categories, but the basic ones are the same everywhere: serif, sans serif, handwritten, script/stroke calligraphy. Another way to divide fonts is based on their type, and there are two categories: open type fonts and true type fonts. Their extensions differ. One is .otf, while the other is .ttf. And there's loads of information on the web about them, but here's what you need to know. In general, you should prefer open type fonts over true type ones because they contain additional features and options. Let me show you what I mean. On my canvas, I have a paragraph written in Minion Pro Italic. This is an open type font, and I can tell by looking at this drop-down. Notice that O symbol, that stands for open type. We previously skipped this region in the character panel, but let me quickly show you what's up. Basically, if you have these features available, this means your type is going to have some extra decorations, even more so than the regular serif fonts. Let me enable the first one, but focus on the text, not on this panel. Did you notice the difference? Focus on sci-fi, for example, as I toggle it on and off. As you can see, Photoshop identifies that this typeface has extra special characters called glyphs that are available in certain circumstances. Here, it sees the opportunity to combine F and I together, and that's exactly what it's doing. Why? Well, it looks nicer. And that's the story with all these features. Let me activate this third one. Focus on lists. When I enable this feature, our type gains a dash of personality. This is very useful when you want a boost of creativity, but you're limited to text layers. And all this is possible because this font has these extra characters built in. The same can't be said about true type fonts. So this is the main reason why you should look for open type extensions. But don't get me wrong, it's not like TTF fonts are useless. Far from it, I actually use them in most of my projects. But if you have to choose between two similar typefaces, I'd go with the one with more options, and in most cases, if not all, that's going to mean OTFs. One final note. Most fonts, even though they might be open type, don't contain a lot of these extra glyphs. So if you switch to another font and you see most, if not all of these icons are grayed out, that's because that particular typeface doesn't have these additional glyphs. Okay, that wraps up this lecture. I'll see you soon.